Let's talk a bunch of different topics.
How'd her career get there?
This is a podcast with Lauren Asghari.
This is the Lauren Asghari podcast, How'd Her Career Get There? And my guests today are Laura Deimling and Courtney Wandeloski, who are the founders of Down to Staff. Welcome, ladies.
Hello. Hey, how are you?
Doing fantastic. How about you two?
Good. Yeah, we're good. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thrilled to have you here. So let's jump right into it. For starters, can one of you give an overview of what is Down to Staff?
Yeah, so Down to Staff is a full services staffing firm. So Courtney and I started the company back in 2018, towards the end of 2018. So we both come from the staffing world. So we decided to start DTS and focus on IT staffing as well as finance and accounting staffing.
And say one more time, when did the company start?
At the end of 2018, so December 2018. Yeah.
Got it. And what prompted you to do that, to start your own business?
So Laura and I have been friends for over a decade. We've known each other since we were teenagers, and we've always talked about having a company together. We've always wanted to be business owners. We'd watch Shark Tank for hours and try to come up with ideas. We had a dog sitting business, we made soaps and body scrubs. We're just always trying to come up with something, and nothing ever really stuck. And in 2018, we just kind of realized, I don't know why, but it clicked that we were both working for staffing companies and we had this staffing industry experience. And we thought, well, if we can do this for other people, we could do it for ourselves. And we finally just put the plan into action, and it's been working out so far.
So take me through, actually, I'm going to bounce around a little bit. I'm going to come back to that. But let's talk about, so you guys have known each other for 10 years. Let's go, Courtney, let's start with you. What were you like? Where did you, give me just some quick background. Where did you grow up? Did you have any siblings? What were you like as a kid?
Yeah, so I grew up in Pasadena, Maryland. I'm the oldest of two, so I have a younger brother who's 5 years younger than me. He's actually one of our recruiters, funny enough. He was our first hire last year. And I had a pretty normal childhood, nothing crazy. I played soccer, tennis, I ran track, and I never really knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. When I was younger, I wanted to be a singer and an actress and, kind of had these really lofty goals. And when I got to college, I just never really knew what I wanted to do. So, some people I feel like they know, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a nurse or whatever it is. And I just figured, I'll get into the business world and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. And what did you study in school?
I just studied business. So just a standard business degree. And I'd already been working at the time. I started working full time when I was about 20 and just really liked the business world. I liked the idea of trying to climb this corporate ladder. And when I was young, I've always been a really big go women kind of person. When I was 4 or 5 years old, I was I'm going to be the first woman president. I'm going to be the first woman in the NFL. Why can't women play football? I don't understand. And so when I got to corporate America, I was there aren't a lot of women doing, in leadership positions. And I just really wanted to prove to myself and to everyone that I could do it. And it just became really exciting to me to try to work and beat all the boys out.
And Laura, what about you? Tell me a little bit about you when you were a kid.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Pasadena as well. Courtney and I didn't know each other growing up. I grew up on the other side of Pasadena.
Other side of the tracks?
Yes, other side of the track. I have an older brother. He's about 3 years older than me. And then I actually have a 10-year-old sister now. So she wasn't around back then, but pretty much with a single mom and I grew up, my uncle had a landscaping business, so I grew up helping him out. So when I was, like 5, he would pay me $1 an hour to help him pot up plants and do little things around there. And so I always just grew up kind of like working and having this idea of like, okay, if I work, I can get money. And so I just always, I was like, I'm going to go make a lot of money one day. I didn't really know what I was do. When I was really little, I said I was going to be a doctor. And then, I got into school and I was really good at math. So I ended up going to the University of Maryland and majoring in math. And I ended up switching to economics. So I got an economics degree and then I got my MBA with a concentration in finance. So I've always been more on the finance and accounting side. And so for, about 10 years, I worked in finance and accounting. So I actually worked for a staffing firm in finance and accounting, and Courtney was more on the sales and recruiting side. So when we kind of came together, it was a good balance because I had more of the kind of business finance side of things and understanding how a business works on the back end. And Courtney really knew how a business works on the front end and how to, really need the money. So it's worked out well.
And what was so take us through, if you remember, either one of you, like the moment that you kind of looked at each other and said, let's do this, let's start a business. Like take us through that. If you remember it. And my second part question to that is, what was it like the first week, month, couple of months when you were really getting started?
So interestingly enough, we actually had a third business partner who we were working with in the very early stages. And the three of us would meet for lunch and brunches and just kind of come up with the idea of what we really wanted for a company. And I think really early on, Laura and I were all in that this is what we wanted to do. We were both really burnt out from corporate America. We were tired of having a boss. We were tired of, everything that comes with that and just feeling like we were working for the man in this little hamster wheel. And so the first few months, it was three of us. And then in early 2019, we had all come to the decision that Laura and I were going to continue, and our third business partner was going to stay at her job and maybe eventually do something else on her own. But I don't think she was really ready at the time as much as Laura and I were. And it was, I think at that point we had our minds set up. Our minds were made that we were going to quit our jobs and do this full time. And it was probably a little over ambitious looking back now. We probably weren't ready to quit our jobs. We hadn't made any money yet, but we were at the point where we could only do so much in the evenings and on the weekends, and our day jobs were being impacted because we weren't focused on them anymore, and DTS wasn't being given enough attention. So we just said, hey, we're doing it. And in end of April, May, that time frame of last year, we quit our day jobs and have been doing it full time since.
And how was that? Well, let me unpack that a little bit. Like the support system, I'd imagine, not only building on the foundation of your friendship, but the support system that you two have with one another as business partners, I'd imagine would be very strong, right? Given your friendship foundation. How was it early on, or when I say early on, like when you made the decision to start full time, was one of you like more nervous about it, or the other one have to give a push to it, or were you equally like, okay, this is just a matter of fact, let's go do it?
I feel like we were pretty much both pretty equal and all in, and we had been, working our day job and coming home and working all night and on the weekends, and we actually lived down the street from each other. We saw each other all the time anyway. So this was before we started the company. So we, had talked a couple of times like, hey, we're not really getting where we want to get with DTS. And we're also now not focusing on our jobs that's actually paying us. So we had some things in the pipeline. So we didn't just quit our jobs, cold, like, hey, let's hope this works out. We had some things in the pipeline. We knew we were going to get paid, in the next few months. So we, decided to put in the notice and take the leap. And I think Courtney put in her notice right after mine. So it was right around the same time. We were both like, hey, is this really what we want to do? Are we both like committed? If I put in my notice, like you have to put in your notice too. And so I feel like we were on the same page. So we both put in our notice like really closely, one after the other. And
and here we are.
Yes, here we are. I actually think some of our other friends were more skeptical than we were, and they were more, are you sure you guys are ready for this? And I think Laura and I were like, yeah, what do you mean? This is going to be great, of course. And I think we're definitely a lot more optimistic than some other people in our lives were. So I don't think either of us were overly scared. Maybe we should have been, but I think I'm glad it worked out how it did, because I don't think there's ever the perfect moment to do anything. So if we would have been waiting for that, who knows where we would be today. Yeah, we would have been waiting forever. And I am definitely probably the more like logical and pessimistic one, and Courtney's the more like optimistic one. But I was like, all right, we both have significant others that we live with. Like they both had full-time jobs. So we're like, we can fall back on them. Worst case scenario, we had some money saved. So I was like, all right, I feel like we're in a pretty good place. And I usually am like worst case scenario, like this could never work. So I was like, okay, I think it works. I think we're going to be okay. And I think we also had one client in the very beginning that gave us a lot of business. And so we were like, oh, all clients are going to be like, this is great. They pay on time. They pay us well. Like, with this, we're going to be great. And that one client was at first, but not all clients are like that. And I think that gave us, the push to quit our jobs and maybe gave us a little bit more security. We really had.
It's as you're talking, what you're saying is totally resonating with me. I remember when I started my business that I didn't ask anybody. It was like my business partner and my husband, and outside of that, like no opinion or perspective. And I had a 3-4-month-old at the time, and it was just like, I didn't want the outside noise. It was like, I didn't want the outside noise of somebody else saying that you can't do it, right? Or whatever their limitations are, them imposing that on you. So I love to hear that you guys just kind of went for it. What were some of the things early on in your business? And you just mentioned a few, like one or two there, Laura, when you talk about like cash flow and customers paying. What are some things that people starting a business should know, or the underbelly of being an entrepreneur, in your guys' opinion?
I would say anything, just be prepared. Anything that could go wrong really well. People usually start businesses and have like best case scenario in their mind, like, oh, we're going to make this much money. This is when the money's due. They're going to pay on that date. We're not going to have any unexpected expenses. And for us, at least, like everything that kind of could have not went the course did, we ended up not getting paid on time, not having things worked out that we thought were we had in the bag or guarantee, and then they didn't work out. And so we know some other business owners that have started businesses after us. And they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to make all this money. Like, this is when we're going to make it. This is when we're going to get this. And I'm like, yeah, things usually don't work out that way. So like, just be conservative and kind of forecasting and budgeting and all of that.
Anything, Courtney, in addition to that you would add, or pretty similar?
No, I think it's pretty similar. And I would say for us, our saving grace in 2020 with COVID hitting is the fact that in 2019, we were very conservative with our cash. We spent very little. We didn't have an office space. We worked from my kitchen table. We didn't buy ourselves all new equipment, all new computers. we were really calculated with every dime that went out, because it's really easy. Oh, it's $100 here, it's $100 there, and that $100 10 times adds up to $1,000. And you do that so often, and next thing you know, you've spent a lot of money, and it might be fine at the time, but when you hit a flu season or when you get hit with a global pandemic, you will look back and say, "Oh, I wish we wouldn't have spent that money." And thankfully, we didn't spend that money in 2019, and we were conservative. And even our accountant at the end of 2019 said, "Oh, you can take that money out. You don't need it there in the bank. Just pay yourself a little extra." And if we would have, we would have been in really big screw. Yeah, they were like, "Oh, why don't you guys take more money out?" And I was like, and I do all of like our accounting and stuff, but I'm not a tax expert. So I was like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know what you mean. We're not doing that." And yeah, thankfully we didn't, because we wouldn't have been able, to pay ourselves. And luckily we've been able to pay ourselves and our employees all year, and we haven't had to be like, "Hey, like we can't pay ourselves for a couple of months so we can pay the employees," or whatever. So we've been pretty lucky this year because we were conservative last year. Yes, and I just think in business, and Laura and I always talk about, is it because we're women? Is it because we're startups? But we've been in situations where people have wanted to underpay us or not pay us on time. And so it's great being an entrepreneur and being your own boss. But what comes with that is also the responsibility of, you have to collect money. You have to have hard conversations with people that you can't say, "Oh, you can talk to my manager." We are the managers. We're the ones who make the final decision, which is great. But then that pressure, like, are we making the right decision? Are we working with the right clients, or whatever it may be? It's just a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility. And I think people think, "Oh, it's going to be so much fun being an entrepreneur and being your own boss," which it is. I wouldn't want to go back to the other side, but the flip side is that it all falls back on you. It's everything is on your shoulders, and being prepared to deal with that and having to make tough decisions and have those tough conversations. If someone's not paying you or paying you unfairly, at the end of the day, our business is our responsibility. The success of our business isn't up to anyone else. It's up to us to make sure our contracts are in place. We're working with people who are reputable. It all falls back on us. And that pressure can be a lot sometimes.
Well, I love a couple things that both of you said right there, right? And it's so true. And I don't think that people fully or always appreciate or understand. And in fairness, you probably can't until you do it, right? But the part of, and I look at it this way too, like everything's my fault, right? The good stuff, the bad stuff, all of it flows up, because ultimately you guys are making the business decisions and then making the ones, or you're hiring the people that are doing the work for your clients, or your recruiting team, right? You're putting the people on the field that are driving your business forward. So to your point, it's hard to find you can't point anywhere else besides yourselves, right? And the cash flow piece that you mentioned, I think really is important. And I don't know if people, so let me ask you this, because obviously I have my own personal experience, but I'm curious to hear yours. Was the cash out of the business part, leaving it in there, did you make, like I remember when I started my business, like I made significant personal, I never over leveraged myself before I even started. And then even once I started, I made significant personal sacrifices, right? And my husband, to be clear, like had a job. So it's not like, it wasn't drastic in terms of like where we lived, right? But I remember I was like coupon shopping to start the business so that we didn't have to spend extra money, because I was watching our daughter during the day and didn't want to have to pay for daycare, right? So talk a little bit about that. Like, did you have to make personal sacrifices in order to start your business from a financial standpoint or otherwise? Like, what are some things? And I say sacrifices like that's a negative thing, and I don't want to say it that way. I want to ask you the question differently. Did you make adjustments, personal life, whether it was financial or, with your significant others? Like, what type of compromises or adjustments did you have to make on the personal side to get your business going?
It's funny. So Laura and I both definitely were in very, I don't want to say cushy, but we had really good jobs when we left and did this full time. We both made good money. We had really started rising in our careers, and it was, you could see it in how much money we were making. And we knew when we quit our jobs, we weren't going to be making anything initially. And then even once we started making money, obviously the goal as a business owner is to get to market value and then plus some eventually, but we knew that was going to take time. So that was definitely mentally a challenge, getting used to living a certain lifestyle, going on, multiple vacations a year and going out to eat wherever, not really worrying about it. And for me specifically, I used to get, it seems so frivolous now looking back at it, but I used to get facials every single month. I used to get my eyelash extensions done. I used to have, I still have one, but it's not as expensive, but, a spray tan membership, all of these kind of things to keep up my beauty regimen, if you will. And my husband said, yeah, this is going to have to end if you quit your job and, aren't making any money. And it was really hard for me. I really was holding on to those things. And so last year I did stop doing a lot of those. And now I'm like, gosh, what a waste of time and money some of those things were. And it was a sacrifice at the time, but I think it just really proved to me my commitment to the business and my commitment to making this work. And the last year has been the most humbling of my life, going from making what I was making to taking a significant pay cut at first and really having to work for every dollar we make. Every dollar we make, we are working for. And so it's been really humbling, but I know as the business grows and we start making more and taking more out of the business, I'll appreciate it so much more than I think I would have if I didn't have to make this happen.
What about you, Laura? How was your experience with that?
Yeah, definitely. I probably wasn't as big of a spender as Courtney when we decided to start the business. But like she said, I have a pretty good job, with health insurance, and I had to definitely make some changes. And what's funny is a couple years before that, my fiance had decided to change careers, and he took like a 50% pay cut. And I was like, that's fine, but I'm not paying half of your bills. So you still need to bring half your money to the table. If you want to I support you, but I'm not covering your expenses. And he's, historically not been great with money and didn't have a lot saved up. So I was like, I'm not, you can do this, but you still need to pay half. So when we decided to start the company and we decided to quit our jobs, I was like, I guess I can ask him to do that for me since I didn't do that for him. So we knew quitting our jobs was coming, and that's what we wanted to do. So I had saved up some money. So, the first couple of months, if we didn't make any money, I would be okay. And yeah, it's ended up working out, and we've been able to pay ourselves, less than what, we were making before, but we both came together at one point and we're like, okay, what do we each need to make per month to get by, so what's the minimum we need to make to get by? And then when we start making more money in the future, we can readjust this number if we want. So we both came up with that number and decided to pay ourselves that. And so that's worked out, but it was just funny when we did it because he's like, okay, well, I guess you have half your bill money. And I was like, I guess you're right.
But to your point, the not over leveraging yourself personally so that you don't feel trapped and have to suck the business. I mean, the business is really it needs to eat first, for lack of a better word, right? To sustain. And then as an owner, you're responsible for your employees, right? And you certainly can't, get spray tans and lashes if you can't afford to pay your employees, right? So I don't know if that's a really good perspective as the cash flow and the personal adjustments up front. Let's go back a little bit before you started your business, maybe just earlier in your careers. And Laura, I'll start with you on this one. What was something that you and it can be like one specific story that sticks in your head or just a general theme, but what is something that maybe like you walked out of a meeting one time and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that, or looking back, something that you would have done differently or told your younger self?
I don't know if it's one specific story or more of I just wish I would have spoken up more while I was working, because I've always been a really hard worker, but I've always been really timid and kind of passive and maybe not passive, but timid and shy at work. I just not want to get fed, right? And the last couple of years I was working, I kind of found my voice and was able to speak up more and was able to be like, hey, no, I want that more responsibility. No, I want more money. Like, I want that next promotion. I deserve that, and this is why. And so kind of before that, I just, I would work, I would do everything someone asked of me, but I never really spoke up. So I just don't feel like I got as far. And so I just wish, to younger people and to my younger self too, like, I just wish I wouldn't have been so afraid to speak up sometimes, because the worst someone can say is no, or no, you don't deserve that. And then it's like, okay, well, what can I do to make sure I deserve that? So I think that's my biggest thing. And my biggest thing that I try to implement now, that I am doing sales, that until we started the company, I was never selling anything. Just being able to be like, hey, no, like, we can do this for you. And, you should work, like, just wording things and being able to speak up instead of someone just being like, oh, well, I'm not interested or whatever. Like, okay, well, what could I do to make you interested? And I think that would be my biggest thing I would tell my younger self.
So I want to stick on that just a little bit, because I think it's I've noticed it to be a common, and I probably fell somewhat into that category also when I was younger. I think it's a pretty common theme. And I think for women particularly. So what changed for you? Like, was it a internal confidence? Was it just 3 people got promotions before you did? Like, what was it that was kind of a turning point where you found your voice?
I think for me, it was more, I had this manager who kind of saw something in me, and I was like, I don't know why he keeps asking me to do these things for him. Like, I don't feel like I'm good at it, like, whatever. And he was like my manager's manager's manager, and would always come to my manager like, hey, can Laura help out with this? Like, she's really good at this. Can she help out with that? And that kind of like helped build my confidence, because I'm like, why is he asking me to do those things? And then after a while, other departments would be like, oh yeah, we need this. Like, would Laura be able to do that? And I'm like, why are they asking? And I just like, after a while, I realized like, oh, I actually am really good at this and can do a good job, and like, do deserve this responsibility and more money. And so that kind of helped build my confidence and helped me to be able to, eventually be like, hey, I do want more money because I am doing all of those things. People come to me and want these things from me because I am good at it and help them out. And so that really helped build my confidence, like someone else kind of seeing that in me before I did.
And what about you, Courtney?
Yes, I think as young women, I think it's a thing a lot of young women go through, of just feeling unsure of themselves and wanting to be more passive and not wanting to rock the boat in many different situations. And I just think with age comes this confidence and this, I don't want to say not caring, but you realize that if I want something, I need to go for it and I need to ask for it, because things aren't going to just be handed to me. And I think what I would do is I would look at these men that I was working with, and they were getting these promotions and getting these raises, and it was because they were asking for them, and they had this confidence, this natural confidence to them to say, oh yeah, I can do that. And they would just figure it out. And little me was like, well, I just don't know. And so what I've tried to do over the last 10 years is emulate those people. And even if it doesn't come naturally to me, it's something that I can work on. So some people are just naturally confident and naturally more aggressive in their approach in the workforce. And that's definitely not me at all. I'm not submissive by any means, but I'm not the aggressive, super direct person. But it doesn't mean I can't be, and it doesn't mean I can't work on it. And I think Laura touched on something really great, which is having a mentor, and having a mentor in the workplace, someone who sees something in you and believes in you. And I had one of those too, and it really just changed my entire career. I never thought I could do sales. My first full-time job, I was talking to my boss, who was the CEO of the company, and he's like, what do you want to do, in your career? I said, I don't know, I just want to make a lot of money. And he said, okay, well, you either have to be in management or in sales. And it's like, oh no, I can't do that. Like management and sales, like that is not me. I can't talk to people like that. I can't be responsible for people. And I just never thought I was capable. And then when I found that person who thought I was capable and was willing to kind of take me under their wing, it just really changed. I sound dramatic, but it changed my life because it just gave me this, like Laura said, this inner confidence. And so I do think part of it comes with age, but I also think it's something that we as women can work on, just because it might not come naturally to us as it comes naturally to more men, just that confidence and that pride and that ego a little bit. It doesn't mean we can't emulate that and find ways to have it fit in with our own personalities and then still get what we ultimately are looking for.
Yeah, and I want to repeat what you said because I love it. Or I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but it's a different approach, right? Like it doesn't have to be, and maybe I don't know if this was your lady's experience, but it's not like you have to emulate the style at which men do things, right? It's like you can emulate it's your own style and your own approach to doing it. And all that really matters in any of it is the outcome, right? Not necessarily the path to get there. So, what for you talked about earlier, leaving a bigger company to start your business. What are and you might not know the answer to this, but what are your ambitions when it comes to your business? Do you want to grow it to be a huge company? Do you want to keep it smaller? Are you like, hey, we're still just growing for survival mode, so ask us that, 10 years from now? Like, where do you kind of see your path?
Laura and I do this exercise. We kind of manifest what we want out of our business. And one of the things we say is that we want it to be a $1 billion company. And we do try to put really large goals for ourselves to have something big to work towards. And there's no such thing as dreaming too big. And for us, and if people want a small company, fine too, but I think when I really want to grow this and want to do it nationally and have, satellite offices across the country and really have a big brand. And to get there, we have to have the mindset of that's where we're trying to go. So I know our significant others will laugh at us because they'll be like, oh, we're going to have a $1 billion company. But every company started somewhere. Every company started with a few people that had this idea. And, now, Allegis and Tech and Aerotech and Insight Global, all of these really big staffing companies, they all started somewhere. And now they're these huge companies that people even outside of the industry know who they are. So we just try to put that out there that is what we want, and that is what we are working towards. And it might sound really crazy and lofty and overly ambitious to some people, but we kind of say, why not us? Why can't that be us if that's what we want to do?
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't listen to your husbands or your boyfriends or fiancés. Sorry, not husbands, whatever.
We have short-term goals too, obviously, that are more realistic, but my mom, who's a little out there, but she always tells us, manifest, you're going to get 90 hires in the next 90 days, because then maybe you'll get 30. If you're like, hey, we want to get 10 hires in the next 90 days, well, you might only get 3. So why not make that number bigger? And maybe you won't hit it, but you'll hit a bigger goal. So that's what we
How has COVID affected your business?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, we were really focusing on IT staffing. So that is something that Courtney and I both come from that world. That was something that we really wanted to focus on when we started out. Last year, we did more in other industries and more direct hires. And so this year we wanted to do more contract work in the IT space. Well, that's very competitive, as I'm sure you know. And when COVID happened, any contract positions we had were pretty much put on hold. So pretty much anything IT we had immediately stopped. So we had to kind of quickly pivot and be like, hey, where can we shift and make money over the next, 3, 6 months, whatever, while this is going on, because the IT stuff has stopped right now. So it definitely, we just had to pivot pretty quickly and kind of make a complete change of course, because everything we had at that point either slowed down or stopped completely. Pretty.
How? Remind me your dog's name again.
Jan.
What is it? Jan?
Jan. Yeah.
Jan? Yeah. Jan wants to be on camera, maybe. How quickly, I want to stick on the COVID thing and the pivot a little bit, because I think that this is probably a major, not probably, is a challenge that most entrepreneurs went through. And even in the future, whether it's, hopefully, obviously not a global pandemic, but something that comes up that changes the course of business, or you need to pivot. How quickly did you make that adjustment? Did you see it coming? Did all of a sudden one day your, stuff in the IT sector dry up, and then out of necessity, you were like, the next day, well, we're moving to focus our energy somewhere else?
So it's funny, when things started happening in early March, our work was still there. We're like, oh, we're fine. We're still getting wrecked. Things are still moving forward. I just don't think anybody really anticipated what was going to happen. So a lot of our clients were still kind of business as usual, like, hey, yeah, no, we're going to be okay. And then by mid to end of March, when these shutdowns were happening and it just got really scary and really no one knew what was happening, that's when everything really dried up. And so at that point, Laura and I, we were kind of still trying to make things work. Like, no, we can find the business, we can find the clients. And so sometime in April, we really just looked at each other and we're like, yeah, we're going to run out of money if we don't do something, and if we don't do something quick. And we came to the office that day and really just strategized and game planned and looked at past clients that we had. We work a lot in the behavioral health industry as well, which was an area that we worked in a lot last year. And then in 2020, we're like, okay, let's shift more IT, cybersecurity. And we said, what about going back to that? And what about trying to find industries that are not as impacted? And being a small company, it's great because we are able to make those quick decisions and just go for it. We don't have a team of, hundreds of people that we have to get on board and change course. We have a small team, and so we kind of all just huddled and said, this is what we're doing and this is what we're working on. And that's really what has gotten us through the last few months. And now we've realized that it's probably good to diversify a little bit. We can have our IT and cybersecurity and finance and accounting, but behavioral health isn't going anywhere. It's a growing industry. It's an industry that's just going to keep getting bigger, and we can have as many divisions as we want, right? It's our company. It doesn't have to be, at the end of the day, when you look at, our income statement or balance sheet, P&L, whatever, largest, that stuff, whatever they're called, it doesn't matter where the money comes from. It doesn't have to be, oh, we just do IT staffing. We can have the money coming in wherever we want. And so I think that's really important for entrepreneurs to know. You might have this vision in your mind of who your clients are going to be, what industries you're going to work in, where the money is going to come in. But you don't always get to make that decision when stuff happens. And so I think it's better to just be open-minded and be okay with changing course. And I really like the mentality of fail fast. So if it's not working, let's move on to something else. And so we've been working with the behavioral health clients, and it's been going well. And I don't foresee us ever abandoning that now. We'll probably always keep it as a division, as and still focus on those other areas. Okay.
She nailed it. Courtney summarized it just perfectly. What else? I've two more questions actually, because we talked about it a little bit off camera, and I wanted to make sure I gave you the opportunity to speak about it. Diversity. Talk about how important that is to you guys as founders.
Yeah, Courtney probably speaks about this better than I do, but I think, like she said, we've been in the workforce, we've worked for really big companies and seen kind of the lack of diversity. And when we started GPS, we just really wanted to make sure that not only, obviously we are a diverse company because we're women-owned, but also that we find diverse candidates. And there's, depending on what industry you are, it can be dominated by a certain race or men or whatever. And so we just really set out to make sure that we found diverse candidates. And I think we do a really good job at that because, a lot of people naturally gravitate to people that are similar to them and don't even realize that. And we really tried to make an effort to not do that and to talk to everybody and kind of give everybody a chance, regardless of whether, they're similar to us or not. And last year we had a really big placement with a really big company in Bethesda. And it was for an IT position, and it was a woman. And it was just really great because that field is dominated by men mostly, and so we're just really happy. And if there was a man that was the best fit for the job, then that would have been it. But she was really great, and she was really. It was just really awesome to be able to help her get that position and help the company with kind of their diversity. And we've been able to do that for some other companies too. So it's definitely a big focus as a company, and when we're looking at candidates. Yes, I think it's just really. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it's important to be aware of our unconscious biases, and they're unconscious for a reason because we might not even be aware of them and aware that we do have them. And so I think what Laura and I really try to do, and what we hope trickles down, and what we try to talk to our team about, is just being aware of those things and being aware of what biases we might have and working to overcome them. And that's the biggest thing is, okay, they might be there, but we need to work to overcome them and work with every candidate that we see and make sure our clients feel the same way. And because it's just, companies succeed when they have people from various backgrounds, various ethnicities, various, however they grew up. All of it is so important to, when you talk and you have conversations and you're trying to strategize, having people that have these different backgrounds bring different ideas and bring different perspectives. And so that's diversity and inclusion shouldn't just be like you're checking off the list because, we need to be diverse and inclusive. It is for very real reasons. Companies are better that way. They perform better. They have a more harmonious workforce. People are more loyal to companies. It should not just be viewed as, okay, we check off this diversity goal and now we're good. There are really concrete reasons behind it. And so if we can help our clients see that too and be part of that change in the world, then I think it's really
important to you.
Really exciting.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to start, Courtney, with you on this one. So this is my last question. How do you define success?
That's such a good question. And I think that when I was younger, I saw success one way, and it has definitely shifted a lot over the years. You know, when I was younger, I wanted to be a senior vice president of a company. That was what success was in my mind, climbing the corporate ladder and having this really fancy job title. And once you're a business owner, you realize job title doesn't really mean anything. As you know, a founding partner, Laura and I do everything. You don't say, oh, no, we can't do that. You know, we recruit, we sell, we do administrative work, you know, whatever it takes to get the job done. So now so much it isn't so much about job title as opposed to, for me, success is really work-life balance and living.
Jan likes it.
A great life. Living a great life in my career, and then being able to spend time with my friends and family and live a great life outside work. I was so work focused when I was younger, and obviously we want to build this really big company, and it takes a lot of time and dedication to the business. But the older I get, I realize that that's not all that matters in life anymore. You know, really building relationships and being able to travel and do all the things that I want to do with this short little life we get, that's really success to me. So before, success was all work related, and now for me, it's really all encompassing to all areas of my life.
And what about you, Laura?
That was a great answer, and I would agree. And Courtney and I have talked about that, you know, a million times. I had a job for years where I worked 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And after a couple of years of doing that, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. Like, this is what I need. You know, I need someone else on my team. And what was so weird is that I worked with a company that had that culture of stay late, everybody's late. And so I started having conversations like that, and my management agreed. And I think other people had also started saying things, and I was still able to be really productive, not working 12 hours a day. And I just feel like at some point, I looked around and there would be people that didn't really do anything until 2 p.m. and then would work from 2 to 8 because that was what was expected. You're expected to stay late. And I'm just like, yeah, that just doesn't make sense for me. And I never want to have a company where that is kind of, the culture. And we definitely work late and work when we go home and all of these things we have to, but work-life balance is really important for us. And for me, success for me is, how many people can I positively impact? I have my family, and I know Courtney's family is really important to her too. And, we have friends, and we have our employees, and we both have animals. And for me, if I'm working all day and I have any positive impact on any people in my, or animals in my life, then it's all kind of for nothing. And so now I just try, to have the goal in mind, whatever I'm doing, I want it to be able to let me be able to support the people that I care about and, support our employees and help them, have a better life, and help my family and, impact my significant other and, help my pets have a better life. And so I just, I have a 10-year-old sister as well. And I keep that in mind too, everything I do, how can I help her to have a better life? And so I just try to take that approach at work, how can we help our employees get to where they want to go, and help us personally get to where we want to go, and help our clients get to where they want to go. And so that's kind of the mindset. If we're doing that, then I feel like we're successful.
Nice. Is there anything else? I'm going to go into rapid fire questions after this, which are unrelated to anything we've talked about so far. Is there anything else before I do that we didn't touch on that you ladies want to talk about?
No, I think that was a great discussion we had.
Yeah, I agree. Laura, anything for you?
No, I don't think so.
Good. Okay. right, so we're going to go rapid fire. So just pick one of the things on the list. So, Courtney, why don't you go first so we're not talking over each other. So, all right, cat or dog?
Dog.
Netflix or cable?
Oh, is it me still?
No, actually, I don't know. Laura didn't answer, so I just kept going. All right, back up.
Dog too.
Dog, okay. Netflix or cable?
No. Netflix.
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Netflix or Amazon Prime?
Netflix. Netflix.
Netflix. All right. All right. I haven't watched this network yet. Netflix or Peacock?
I haven't watched Peacock yet either. Yeah, I have.
No takers. Okay. Okay. Stone or brick?
Oh, no. Probably go with brick.
Sky or grass?
Grass. Guys.
Are you sure?
Sure.
Astronaut or deep sea diver?
Oh, well, they both give me really bad anxiety. I would say astronaut. I would say deep sea diver just because I like the sea more than space.
Okay. Beach, like sand or ocean?
Ocean. Beach.
And last one, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right. That's it. That will wrap us up. Again, my guest today is Laura Deimling and Courtney Courtney, I was so close. Hold on. Let me try. Wait, don't correct me yet. Wandeloski?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. This is the Laura Asghari podcast, How'd Her Career Get There? These ladies have found DTS staffing, so check them out. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that? What's the best way to find you?
We're on LinkedIn, so our LinkedIn is down to staff, and pretty much, we're on there. Our employees are on there. Our website is on there. So yes, I would say LinkedIn, down to staff. You can find all of our contact info there.
All right. This is the Laura Asghari podcast, How'd Her Career Get There? And we'll see you next time.
Let's talk a bunch of different topics.
How'd her career get there?
This is a podcast with Laura Asghari.